Okay, thank you so much for joining the webinar. We're going to let a few more people log in. I'm Duncan Chappell here at CC Group. I'm here with my colleague Flori. How do I even pronounce your last name? Is it Lullier?
Really,
Lullier.
yeah.
It's something to do with oil?
It used to be, yes, that's right,
Yeah.
because it used to be an apostrophe in it. And yeah, back in the days, they were giving last names based on people's profession,
Yes.
jobs,
Yeah.
right? So yeah, I guess I have a ancestor that was making oil.
Excellent. Very good. So Flori and I are going to be talking about how industry analysts influence security technology buyers. So sharing with you this amazing study, 200 buyers of security solutions have been telling us about the information that they use through the buying process. Flori is going to be telling us all about that. I just want to make a few housekeeping rules. Some of these are rules, some of them are really just affordances of the way that Zoom works. So, so it's a webinar. So you're muted. Flori and I can hear each other, but we can't hear you. We're recording the webinar because, of course, many of the people who've registered can't attend at the end of the day. And we will take questions and answers at the end of the presentation. So let me move into the meat of the conversation. Flori is the head of our cybersecurity stream. So people who know CC Group will organize that. We're organized in a handful of vertical market streams, depending on the audiences that our clients are selling to. Flori heads up our cybersecurity stream. I'm Duncan Chappell. I head up the analyst relations team. So we are working across our clients. Cybersecurity is one of the out of the 5 streams that we're working in. Cybersecurity is one of our two largest streams, with a number of really important clients in that area, or for us, such as Okta and Kroll, for example. Flori's going to drop more names later on. We're going to be dividing the content in the webinar between us. Flori, I wanted to kind of root the question a little bit in our reality. So why do our clients matter to security analysts? So why are we a participant in this conversation?
No, I think they matter because you can't just have leaders in a market, right? I think you need challengers, you need disruptors, not only to sort of make the market better, more competitive, but I think to drive innovation, I think it's important to obviously different players. By having different players, that compete with each other, then they always want to obviously be the first one and be the better one. So that really helps drive innovation. So, we love working with leaders, of course, but we also love working with challengers and disruptors. So, and if you look at the sort of portfolio of clients that we have, Netasea is a leader in bot management, for example, but we also work with, Blanco data erasure provider that, a leader in its market, but also, a challenger, I think I would say.
I think the other thing that comes across to me, just looking at this list, is that you've got some companies that are purely security solutions, and then others are addressing problems that security analysts get called in to help with, like a company like Boku and OpenPaid in the financial institutions sector, or Wind River working across every vertical market. A key differentiator for them is security, and so security analysts are involved very often in like particular vertical market problems as well, aren't they?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
So let me ask you to tell us some more about this amazing study that you've conducted, looking into vendor selection and how security buyers are going through that process.
Mm-hmm. Great. Yeah. Thanks, Duncan. So I think, I'd like to start by explaining why, we decided to invest in this research. And really, there's 2 main reasons. The first one is COVID. Due to the pandemic, purchasing cycles for security solutions in particular were sort of subject to sudden and widespread disruption. There's been millions of employees around the world like us, suddenly finding ourselves working from home like, we are today. And because of that, IT security teams had to quickly shift priorities and budgets. They had to sort of institute measures, to maintain business continuity and most importantly, protect their organization and remote workforce against cyber attack. We've seen lots of ransomware attacks, for example, rising through the roof over the last few months. And what that means is that the market environment has changed. It's a much more competitive environment, and therefore the way that security vendors market their product and services has to change as well. So with this research, what we wanted to find out is how prospective buyers select a security vendor today. What are they looking for in a security vendor? Do they prefer to inform themselves about a particular vendor using a different communication channel that they used to? Are they reading different type of contents? This sort of things. So that's the first reason. The second reason is, so as CC Group, we have an in-depth focus on different areas of technology, like Duncan was mentioning. And as a PR agency, I think we sort of like to practice what we preach, right? So we really believe in research and really about informing ourselves about how our clients' buying audiences, behave. And that way, by really getting to grasp with, how our clients' customers make their buying decisions, we're able to advise our clients on the marketing strategies and campaigns that are going to influence buyer awareness and purchasing decisions. So if we now sort of, before we sort of dig into how the investment landscape, has evolved and what are the channels and content security buyers, are paying attention to, and the power really analyst relations have when it comes to driving awareness and selection, I just wanted to give you a quick idea of who we surveyed. So we commissioned Coleman Parks, a B2B research agency, to interview 200 UK senior decision makers within companies of more than 100 employees, within retail, healthcare, financial services, and TMT, so technology, media, and telecoms. And all of the companies we interviewed, have been involved in a major security technology purchase in the last 6 to 12 months. And actually, if we dig deeper into the size of companies that we surveyed, the average employee count was nearly 8,000. So really, we're looking at enterprises more than we're looking at sort of medium-sized businesses. So first, let's look at the state of security investment. So according to our survey, 4 out of 5, UK companies are currently on the lookout for new suppliers in a security technology space. And this is despite 78%, so 3/4 of companies already having made an unplanned purchase as a result of COVID. So with remote work here to stay, or hybrid work, for many, and new threats emerging every day, it's not really surprising that companies are still planning to invest in security solutions, and also despite ongoing economic uncertainty. And I was looking at sort of the latest stats from different analysts, and according to IDC, security spending is actually set to reach nearly $175 billion actually globally in 2024. So, and those investments are significant. So if we look at the average ticket price for those new security purchase in the past 12 months, they came just below £800,000. And actually for financial services, it goes up to £900,000. So it's really clear that the future for security is looking bright. But what's really interesting, I think, is that 1/3 of the companies we surveyed sort of describe knowing who to choose as the biggest obstacle to getting those security purchase over the line. So there's really a big opportunity here for vendors to influence those buyers. So, and if we, one of the ways really to sort of influence these prospective buyers is through analyst relations. And if you consider the different stages of the buying process in terms of awareness, selection, so long listening and short listening, and then finally decision itself, we found that the analyst, the industry analyst influence has grown throughout the process from awareness to decision. So it starts by being one of the top 5 channels for driving awareness, to being the second most influential type of content once you get to the decision stage. So yeah, really interesting to see how powerful analyst relations becomes as you move through the stages. And if we start with awareness, so we ask respondents, how much influence different channels, have on their awareness of a security vendor. And the most influential ones are industry events, followed by trade media publication, discussion with sort of colleagues, peers, within other companies, business technology media, and then analysts. So although analysts are fifth, the difference between actually the second, third, and fourth place is very, very minimal if you look at the mean score. So what this shows is that different types of channels, including analyst relation, need to be mastered really simultaneously. And then if we sort of, now if we look at the sort of long listening and short listening stages or selection stage, so when we asked, respondents, which channels they found most influential when narrowing down a list of prospective security vendors to sort of engage with, overall, industry analysts came fourth, again behind industry-specific events, which tops up the charts again, as well as trade and business media. So we can see the industry analysts start growing, in influence. And actually, if you look at it from a sector perspective, they actually become second for retail businesses. So if you are a security vendor looking to target retailers, you really need to make sure that analysts, that you are talking to analysts, and that analysts are talking to them about you. That's really important. The other sort of aspect of the selection stage that we asked about was vendor suitability. So how the vendor they choose was identified as suitable for their needs. And this is why I think it really gets interesting. So the results shows that this is the stage at which a security vendor, you are most likely to have their sort of decision influence, via engagement with third-party independents, such as professional consultants or advisors, at 45%, and then industry analyst reports at 44%. So this really underlines the value of cultivating and maintaining, key business relationship with business consultancy firms and industry analysts. Through regular networking and industry analyst relations program, in order to secure and communicate the advocacy for specific security brands to buyers, making a final decision. And then if we look at content specifically, because the research was not just about the channels, we also asked about the types of content that resonates with them. And according to the results, so industry analyst reports have the greatest power to spread brand awareness among security buyers, and actually by quite a margin, if you look at the percentage here. And webinars, case studies, and white papers are also significant, and I think that's important to mention as well. But if we look actually at the findings from a sector perspective, again, industry analyst reports are even more important, with 64% of buyers in the healthcare sector and 70% in the financial services sector, ranking them as number one content type for driving their awareness of a security vendor. So, as a security vendor, you really need to make sure that you are being perceived in a correct way by industry analysts, and invest in analyst relations to make sure that these relationships are being looked after especially if you're looking to target, healthcare and financial services organization. The other aspect of content is, so when it comes to influencing security buyers at the selection stage, industry analyst reports took the top spot again, followed by long form content written by vendors themselves. So both white papers and industry analyst reports provide really the deep level of detail that will help buyers during the selections process. So analyst reports, for example, they provide insights into the more sort of intangible qualities which affect the selection process, such as vendors' reputation, flexibility, and ability to sort of set and or align with wider industry trends. So again, really important to to consider as part of your marketing strategies and content strategies. So yes, that's basically the sort of overall findings of the research. So to summarize, here's why analyst relation really stealing the show and is a tactic that you should be thinking about and dedicate time and investment to. So industry analysts are one of the top 5 most impactful channel for driving awareness of your product and services among medium and large businesses. They are one of the top 4 most influential channel for businesses when narrowing down a list of prospective security vendors to engage with. Analyst reports are the second most influential channel for security buyers in making a final decision. And finally, they're also the most influential content type for both driving awareness and selection of security vendors. So really our advice here is, as a vendor, you really need to optimize your analyst relations and make sure that it is strategically being integrated into all of your marketing communications program. And I'll let Duncan actually now talking, telling you about how, you're going to be able to do that.
I will unmute myself. So what I want to do now is kind of share, firstly, some information, and then secondly, some experiences about how we help identify which analysts are influential, and then the activities that organizations need to engage in order to try to inform analysts, to help them to be able to give accurate information about the organizations that they are working with. But before I do that, I just want to pause because I've seen a question pop up in the Q&A, which might be an interesting thing for you to address, Flori, before I pick up with. I don't know if you can see the question or if I should read it to you.
Yes, let me have a look. So yeah, thank you, David, for sending that question. Vendor.
Let me just read the question in case I'm not sure if participants can see the questions, but let me just read it while you think about it. So survey findings seem to indicate that vendor content marketing efforts, blogs and social amplification are not viewed as helpful sources of info and guidance. Any thoughts about why this investment in self-publication is failing to engage? Let me just go back to those numbers. I'm not sure if I mean, just because things aren't as impactful as analyst research, I'm not sure if that shows that they're failing.
Yeah, I don't think they're necessarily failing. I think they need to, if you look at the percentage, it's actually not, not small, right? And I think you need to make sure that blogs and social amplification is actually part of your marketing strategy as well. You can't just have one piece of the puzzle and not have the other pieces. I think blogs and social amplification is definitely needs to be part of what you do. Yeah, if you look at actually, if you want to drive actually vendor selection, blogs are number 3 actually. And top 3 piece of content that you should be looking at when driving selection. So it might not necessarily be the top ones or around the top ones when it comes to driving awareness, but certainly around driving selection. So yeah, I think it's definitely something that is worth paying attention to. And if you look at social media, again, it's 3.2, so out of 5 is actually not that low. So it's of course lower than other type of contents, but I think it definitely needs to be part of what you do as as sort of content marketer.
And just as a reminder, if people go to ccgrouppr.com/insights, they can get to download this report and of course other insights reports that we've commissioned from other research firms interviewing buyers in the areas covered by our other streams. Let me just move on to the AR lessons. So a big part of our work in the analyst relations team at CC Group is leveraging insight from both the Catalyst studies that our streams engage in and also the analyst value survey, which we sponsor. So I'm going to just talk through some of those results because they set the scene, really a scene of complexity, that there are many analyst firms that are influencing buyers, the way that there are also many channels and many content sources influencing buyers. I think many of the people on the call will be familiar with the Analyst Value Survey. It's the only longitudinal study of the users of analyst firms that's been running for 20 years. It's done by the Analyst Observatory, a research centre at the University of Edinburgh, which actually I volunteer as a co-director of. And 350 people took the study in Q1 of this year. So what I'm presenting here are data from Q1. And one of the ways that we publicize that study is the Cybersecurity Analyst Firm Awards. So they will be published next month, but you're going to get a peek at them in a couple of slides time. So the Cybersecurity Analyst Firm Awards look at the responses from people who have used Analyst Insight in the areas shown here, and they show which firms are most valuable. So not just the firms that are being used, but the firms that are most valuable to those. There are a few key findings that come out. One is that the demand side and the supply side often use different firms. Obviously, buyers and sellers, they have different questions. So different analyst firms will tend to be differently useful. Also, we see that niche firms, like smaller firms, firms that are more specialized, are going to be more influential later on in the sales cycle. So when there are maybe fewer people involved in the buying center, niche firms are more influential at the beginning of the buying center, when at the beginning of the buying process, more people are involved. And the other thing, a little bit frustrating for analyst firms, is that when we ask people which analyst firms they are using, they name traditional analyst firms. They also name third-party advisory firms like ISG, and they also name consulting firms like KPMG, like Deloitte, where I used to work. The other difference that stood out for me looking at the data is between the demand side participants and the supply side participants, almost half of the people on the demand side said that they were using cybersecurity research, whereas only a third of the people on the supply side were using research into cybersecurity. So I think maybe that shows that cybersecurity is more of a problem for people on the demand side, more of a problem for people in the enterprise and in the SMB sector than it is on the minds of people on the supply side. Maybe that's good news for suppliers. I worked with some researchers at the Analyst Observatory to take these data from the study and just try to see, is there a difference between the firms that are used by providers on the supply side and firms on the demand side, the enterprises and the SMBs on the demand side? And actually, there is quite an intriguing difference. That there are some firms that were used much more by the supply side, so Constellation Research and 451, but to a degree also Omdia and IDC. These firms were used much more by the supply side. And then there are other organizations that tended to be used more by the demand side than by the supply side. So PwC, HFS, KPMG, they really stood out. Of course, PwC and KPMG, these are big business advisory firms that have large research operations that are pushing out content really for content marketing. So it's fantastic research. Maybe even there's more data in that research than, say, something Constellation Research is doing. But it's much more likely to be used by people on the demand side than by people on the supply side. And then in the middle, of course, there are firms that are used both by people on the demand side and by people on the supply side. So these are organizations that definitely have a premium business model, but also their research is being spread very, very widely through the market. The interesting thing here is that niche firms focused on security and identity, people here in Europe will know Cole, for example, the German headquartered firm that's obviously got analysts all over the place. But these niche providers, they don't have the same broad audience as analyst firms that are producing research about everything. So when we look at the Cybersecurity Analyst Firm Awards, which will be announced, I think June the 6th, I think they're going to be announced. These are the firms that are going to be announced as winners in the awards. The survey methodology basically asks people which firms do they use, which services do they use for these firms, and then how valuable are the firms that they use at providing those services. You add them up, and there are two groups of winners. There are the platinum winners, which together produce more than 50% of all of the analyst firm value. And then there are the gold winners, which when added together with the platinum winners, collectively have more than 2/3 of all of the value being generated by the analyst industry for people who are consuming research on the cybersecurity topic. So it's kind of intriguing that there are just 10 firms out of the 800-900 analyst firms, just 10 firms producing 2/3 of the value. Maybe it's not so surprising that these 5 firms are the platinum winners. Almost all of the firms in the top 10 this year were in the top 10 last year and the year before. Analyst industry maybe doesn't change so quickly. There are a couple of changes that are worth pointing out in the gold winners. Ecosystem, which is a leading Asia Pacific firm, maybe the largest firm headquartered in the Asia Pacific region, has pushed up into the gold segment this year, really reflecting a growing use of analyst research broadly in the Asia Pacific region, and ISG, a third-party advisory firm which has bought some industry analyst firms. It bought Saugatak, it bought Experton. It's building up its research base. That is also an organization which has appeared more as being influential. So there's a complex landscape, and it's on the basis of that complex landscape that I just want to move on and talk through the process that we recommend that organizations engage in if they want to shift analyst perception and if they want to benefit from this growing influence of industry analysts. We have this 5-stage process that we recommend that people work through. More than anything else, it's more important than ever before to start with research. I used to be an analyst back in the 90s, and a long time ago, during the before the dot-com boom started. And back then, actually, the analyst landscape was relatively simple. There were fewer analyst firms. The internet wasn't as powerful a tool in helping niche knowledge-based organizations to diffuse their insights around the world. So prioritization didn't used to be a challenge. There were 1-2 analyst firms that represented most of the analyst influence. And now, of course, there are big analyst firms, but there's no longer like 1 or 2 firms that have most of the influence. There's a very, very powerful long tail. And that influence differs from industry to industry. So the most important activity is to prioritize analysts. Very often we see organizations where analysts are contacting you, and so you think that the influence of analysts is basically the same as how big their sales teams are, who are calling up vendors. That's not the case. You really need to engage independently in the activity of prioritizing the analysts, ranking and tiering people. And the second thing that we say is it's really important to do alignment. So to really message, to really think strategically about how what you have to say has to be adapted to the language of individual analyst firms. Engagement, this is very important for us. You know, the largest single part of the analyst relations programs that we are running for our clients is engagement. So making sure that spokespeople are having conversations with analysts, but conversations that build on that alignment, that are starting from that analyst's particular interest, from that analyst firm's particular vocabulary. Evaluation is a very important activity for us, making sure that we are looking at analysts' comment. We're really blessed to be one of a very small number of organizations that's invested in an extremely large base of about 2 million items of analyst content that gives us an unsurpassed level of insight into what analysts are saying about different activities. And then working together with our marketing team, working together with our editors, we're finding ways to be able to leverage those outputs that we identify from analysts. So most importantly, for many clients, using those insights internally, being able to develop pieces of competitive intelligence that will inform your colleagues, involve the solution development teams, inform sales, but then also to produce pieces of collateral that can be put into content marketing and sales pipelines to generate leads and to help see the effectiveness of leads. I'm going to step through those in a little bit of detail in case I think many of the people here are quite aware of the idea of engaging with analysts, but these other activities, I think it's probably going to be worth stepping through those in a little detail. Prioritization is really important because most analyst relations effort is wasted. Over the last 20 years, I've consulted to dozens, hundreds of firms on how they allocate their effort. And most of them struggle to focus their time and their expertise because they are not allocating their resources in a brutal enough way. Understanding the firms that are influencing their audiences, their customers, and linking service levels. So spending more time on the analysts that are more important for your audience and spending less time on analysts that might be very influential on your client, on your colleagues, but taking effort away from supply side oriented firms and putting that effort towards firms that are influencing the demand that you are trying to shift. And then in that way, by being able to maximize the impact that you have and win more mind share in the analysts that are influencing your target audience. Alignment is a really key activity. It's hugely useful for organizations that are working also with our media relations team, that they're able to use the deep vertical market expertise in our cybersecurity stream or in our financial technology stream to be able to understand what is different about what that one analyst is saying, what is different about what that one analyst firm is saying, and how can we use what is different about that firm to serve our business objectives. By moving away from a generic sales presentation and starting from where that analyst is interested, our clients are able to shift perceptions faster and get more insights in the briefing. What we are looking for in every briefing that we organize is to find a way that our clients are able to walk away with insights and to walk away with a hook to bring that influential analyst into another interaction. Engagement has to be done from that understanding of what is different about the analyst. We put a lot of effort into crafting that, making sure that our clients are able to use our expertise and the expertise in the rest of their organization about analysts, to be able to understand the individual analysts' interests by developing a single point of content, a single point of contact. We're able to make sure that analysts are communicating with us more. If they get good service, they're able to get the information that they want from the analyst relations contact person, then they're going to use that person more. We'll learn more about their insights, more about their opinions, more about their fears and concerns about the market, and then use those insights, not just to customize the briefing, but to feed that insight back into our clients' organizations to be able to change what the organization is doing, change how it is selling in the market, change how it's influencing analysts. All of that involves measurement. If we're able to track what analysts are saying, to understand whether that is positive or negative, to identify the most impactful pieces of analyst content and pass that into our client organizations, we build the visibility of analyst relations. People know that analyst relations is happening. They have an idea about what is changing. We're also able to track progress. We're able to show, is your share of voice better or worse than your competitors? And then by finding content that is useful for clients, we're able to drive business goals, to change the way that your product marketing people are working, to change the way that, that communications is done inside and outside the organization, and to identify any problems that might be losing you recommendations in the sales cycles that analysts are influencing. Finally, by working together with marketing and editorial teams, we're able to amplify the content, amplify the audience that's being produced by positive analysts. We're able to use that comment to enrich the internal insight that we're providing to colleagues, the external communications that we're providing to our market, to our sales and channel partners, and to our target customers. And then ideally to really drive business development, even in very tactical situations where we're supporting key accounts, we're able to find a key comment that we can feed analyst comment into a whole series of processes inside and outside the organization. I just want to draw together a few thoughts, both from what we've seen in the Analyst Value Survey and what we've seen in this huge study of 200 buyers in a range of vertical markets. Firstly, technology buying has been massively disrupted. Now, buyers are more concerned about security than they used to be, often against their wishes. They've been forced into very substantial investments into cybersecurity solutions, and they know that those investments have not resolved their problems. They know that they need to continue to invest more, and they've identified analysts as being a key decision maker for us. But analysts are only part of the mix. Analysts are very influential, the most influential at the end of the decision-making process. But the trade media, social media, there are a whole series of influences in the mix. A very broad mix at the beginning of the decision-making process, and one in which analysts become more and more influential as that moves on. But analysts have to be seen as part of that mix. It's very important to understand that analyst relations has to be a mix of the marketing communications mix, but you still need marketing communications. You don't need only analyst relations. And the channel, that vital channel of analysts has to be strategically integrated by vendors along with all of their other channels in order to maximize the effect that analysts have on the sales process. I'm going to pull things to a close now. I'm going to see if I can pause at the Q&A and at the chat to see if there are any questions or comments that people have. And also here you can see our email addresses if you are too shy to ask a question in the public Q&A and you want to contact us directly.
There was actually one question, Duncan, that I have answered when you were talking. So Patricia was asking what is the number one influence of analyst reports, and actually when you look at content, analyst reports are very much the number one content type for both driving awareness and selection of the security vendors. There's actually no other sort of type of content that is performing better than analyst reports.
Excellent, good. If there are no other questions or comments, then I think we will leave our email addresses here. We would love to hear from you. Also, just to remind you, ccgrouppr.com/insights is where you can download this report and other reports. But thank you, Flori, for your time and for making this study happen. And thank you to our participants in the webinar for sharing this time with us.
Well, thank you, Duncan. Thank you, everyone, for participating. And yeah, I encourage you to download the report or get in touch with us if you want to learn more, because there's actually the report goes much broader, much deeper than what we've been able to cover here. So yeah, do feel free to get in touch.
Wonderful. Thank you so much. Okay, speak to you soon.
Bye-bye.
Thank you. Bye-bye.